What? We could do it in tandem.
Oh, here we go. All right, ready? 3, 2.
What's up, filmmakers and moviegoers? This is the Easy Podcast.
I'm Zach, and this is Eric. And this is From the Bin.
From the Bin.
This is a special week. Sometimes we do these. We've done 2. We lost one of them, sort of.
We didn't lose it.
We'll revisit it in December of this year now.
Yes.
Our last one, From the Bin segment. Yeah, these are fun.
They are. It's supposed to be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. We have fun talking about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the premise. Yeah, I'm walking
You're
lightly
tiptoeing
here.
because of the last one.
We're moving past that. Let's just say that we found out some information about the last one that's going to benefit these from here on out.
Absolutely. Actually, it was really cool, and I'm grateful because we learned there were some, in the process, because we didn't know, and we were speculating on the episode, and we learned some stuff.
We did.
And we're happy to share that.
We did, and we'll talk about it a little bit here. And I think it has a big part of us moving forward with these kind of movies.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of super interesting. Mainly in the how do these make money sort of way.
Sure. And just so we preface it, the whole From the Bin series was really born out of the whole idea of those big boxes in the big box stores that have all the, they're bins basically full of DVDs. And we just thought it would be entertaining to blindly pull stuff out of it and talk about it. And
sometimes it's
good
and
wonder and scratch our heads why this is in the bin. And, so.
Right. And that could be because it's a great movie. Why is this in the bin? Or it could be, well, we know why this is in the bin.
Like finding gems in the direct-to-DVD space, because a lot of times people aren't exposed to that. So it gives those movies an opportunity. And, quite honestly, there's a lot of them that are kind of meh that end up in there for a reason. So we're just trying to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And, we're going to do what it is. It's from the bin. And so now you know.
And the other part of everything is just kind of, you're putting your work out there, your art out there.
Sure.
It's going to get critiqued.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a part of what we're doing. We're putting our work out there by doing this podcast and video.
Yep.
And it's going to get critiqued.
And we've got other projects that we're working on, and
they're going to get critiqued.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And no one's perfect. We can criticize and critique something. I separate that because criticize sounds a little dramatic and maybe negative, but critiquing sounds so, business. But, we can criticize things all day and claim that, something should have been this way and this way, but it comes down to it. We weren't there. We weren't on set. We weren't in the rooms.
Sure. And it's also one man's opinion.
Yeah.
Well,
2 men.
Yeah.
But
or a man and a boy. There it is.
A man and a boy. I'm 31. Thank you.
Yeah.
52.
Hey.
In like
it's
a couple
51.
months.
It's 51.
And then what, in August?
No.
October?
I just hit 51.
Oh, that's right. We just had that.
Yeah.
My bad, dog.
No, you're good. We didn't have any kind of birthday soiree or anything, so nobody really knows. So it's fine.
Huh. Moving on. This week, we're talking about a John Travolta film that you pulled out of the bin at a insert grocery store here.
Yeah. Insert.
So what's it been, Sam? 5-6 years since you even won a race? It's been a long time since you were somebody.
Don't push it, Jack.
Put him. Hey, don't take my word for it. Ask your son.
I told him not to push.
Stumpy, you are out of your mind.
So Trading Paint
Trading Paint, and then it was also known as
Some Spanish name?
Yeah, some other markets had it as something else, like Burning Rubber or something.
Oh, okay.
You know, which Trading Paint makes more sense. You're not burning a whole lot of rubber on a dirt track.
No,
so.
and the Trading Paint, they actually say it multiple times in the movie.
Right.
Which is kind of one of those, like, you know, when you're Black Sabbath and you play the song titled Black Sabbath, like when you're a band and you play, and your album is entitled Black Sabbath.
Sure. And Trading Paint, I mean, people in the racing world, that's a thing.
Especially in this type of racing, which is round track dirt racing.
NASCAR and that vibe, you know, so.
Interesting thing about this, completely filmed in Alabama.
Right. Which, okay, since you brought that up, there's only one shot that actually looks like it's recognizable in Alabama, and that's when they're at the dealership, and there's a shot that goes out the window or across the lot, and I'm like, I've been there. Because I've been through Alabama a few times, and it was like, I mean, it didn't necessarily, it could have been anywhere in the South. And, I mean, obviously in a dirt track, you're not getting a lot of, so there wasn't really a lot of area establishment other than, the Talladega.
There's I think one drone shot or aerial shot in the whole thing. And it's kind of like just of like this town. It could have been Joe Schmo town of any middle America.
Right. Yeah.
Or Southern America.
I mean, it was cool. It felt like what it was supposed to be.
It did.
Yeah.
All the homes felt very Alabama Southern, or, even like John Travolta's character, his garage.
Yeah.
It all, I mean, they definitely went and found real locations that had already been being used and lived in.
So Location Scout, thumbs up.
Yeah, I would say so.
Good job there.
The one thing that immediately stuck out to me about this movie, I actually, this is going to be surprising, I don't have a whole lot of bad to say about this movie.
I don't either.
It's not great from like a interesting story. There's not a whole lot of meat to it. It's very straightforward.
Yeah, straightforward. Predictable was a word that came to mind.
Predictable, yeah. Basically, let me give you the rundown. So, well, actually, let me get the cover here. Just give me, let me read. The tagline is, "Racing is in their blood." So the movie is about John Travolta and his son, played by Toby Sebastian, who's apparently from Game of Thrones, but I never saw him. Whatever. And then his wife in this is also in Game of Thrones. They play cousins in Game of Thrones. So that's pretty interesting, I guess. Insert photo here. When their winning streak begins to fall, it's very bright. When their winning streak begins to fail, legendary father and son racing duo Sam, John Travolta, and Cam, Toby Sebastian, yes, that's Sam and Cam,
the Monroes,
have a falling out.
Yeah.
A rival racing giant takes advantage of this rift and offers Cam a lucrative opportunity racing for the adversary. Cam accepts, and the gap between father and son grows even bigger. Engines rev and sparks fly as the two are set against each other in an ultimate high-stakes race and the most dangerous competition between father and son. Well, that's over-exaggerating quite a bit on that.
I mean, it's not wrong.
It's not,
but
I mean, well, okay, there's a little bit of a fib there. The most dangerous competition ever between a father and son.
That's true. I mean, racing is dangerous, and people die and get hurt, and I mean that's a thing. But okay,
where do you want to start?
I think so. You brought up the story. It wasn't. It's really straightforward.
Yeah.
For me, it was predictable. Now, here's the thing: father-son dynamic in some movies is real easy to get me at, especially considering the season that I'm in.
Sure.
Right. Didn't get that.
Oh, you didn't have that connection.
I didn't get the. Now, I'm not saying that the acting was bad. I think John Travolta did a good job.
Surprisingly, I agree with you.
And there was especially the scene when he's pulled his son out of the wrecked car.
okay, buddy? His visor, get his visor open, for God's sake. He can't breathe. We're just trying to help. We're just trying to save his life, Sam. What you got? Back up, please. No, this is my son. I understand. Take your shade off. You gotta take your shade off. You gotta get back, Sam. You gotta get back. You can't breathe. How the you mention you can't breathe?
I mean, John Travolta totally does a great job there. That particular scene really stood out to me.
Yeah. There's another scene though that he does that it just totally took me out of it, and it's the scene where they're at John Travolta's dealership or shop or whatever, and his son tells him he's going to go race for the other guy, and John Travolta like snaps instantly and like throws things off of his desks.
Right.
I'm not giving up racing.
Oh, now, son, how you gonna pull that off? You know you don't have the money for that.
Accepted an offer from Boblinski. Take it easy. I know you don't
Like him is an understatement. He's a snake. He's a piece of shit. You get involved with the likes of him, and I guarantee you'll get hurt.
Please try to understand.
No, I understand
No,
perfectly.
no, you don't.
Oh, yes, I
When
do.
Linsky in my corner, I'm going to be an instant companion for the championship.
Championship means more than your father, means more than your loyalties, and means more to you than your blood.
That whole scene, and it felt like maybe it was more of a director issue and not so much like a writer or actor issue, unless Travolta maybe thought that he needed that much energy in that moment, but it just feels like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
One, this movie does a terrible job of like setting up the antagonist. Yeah, I mean, there's one thing that happens where the antagonist is played by Michael Madsen, from all the Quentin Tarantino movies that you're probably familiar with, where he like tells one of the other racers to crash them, you know, and it ends up son ends up getting wrecked.
Yeah. Well, and he tells he tells Cam to wreck his dad.
Yeah,
and then he doesn't.
And then he like apologizes, which is I think just him kind of trying to save face in that moment, because
right.
then he goes and tells him. But up until that moment, the dude was just a dude.
Yeah, he was a rival on the racetrack.
Right.
Yeah.
And they really like through physical language, they convey, and they even say in verbal language a couple times like that guy can't be trusted, or that guy's reckless or something.
Yeah.
And up until that point, you've had no visual, no story.
Yeah, it wasn't
beat.
until he threw the radio on the ground.
Appreciate it.
When
Yeah.
when he walks in the shop, you know,
and I would just toss
you
that
just,
up to any character in that movie would have done that though.
Yeah, I mean,
If
it's
those
just a
people were-
douchey move, you know.
Right.
It's like, okay, yeah, this guy's kind of douchey.
Because if any other character in that movie heard somebody talking about them on public radio,
sure, yeah,
they might have that reaction.
Yeah, yeah.
Because all of the characters in this
Still
movie,
a douchey move, though.
Yeah, all of the characters in this movie I wrote down are like hotheads.
Yeah,
they're all written very macho.
Well, and that's the race. You know, that's the dirt
I
track
know.
racing. I bet you. I mean, it felt really true to form.
Maybe, yeah. I just it's that kind of style that I just don't care to see anymore.
Right. Yeah.
You know, this like I can't show my emotions. I have to, you know, beat somebody up instead of just talking it out, type of a thing.
Right.
Which then is kind of like,
yeah, because you totally saw that when he was drunk in a bar and he punched the guy.
Of course,
you saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah, because it's just this is what this. It felt stereotypical to racing Southern racers, like you know, and I guess I wanted to see a little more depth to that. I mean, I know we were talking about the last movie, and it's like, well, what do you expect from Scorpion King 5? Well, this isn't a sequel to anything. It's an original property.
No, and it was they started principal photography in 2017 and wrapped.
Oh, really? That's early.
And wrapped their production in 2018.
Okay.
For a 2019 release.
Right.
The director was Karzan Kader.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to dive a little bit into that.
Right.
He won a student Oscar for Beckus back in 2012. And Beckus was on Netflix for a while, and I went to go watch it, and I couldn't pull it up. And so I looked through kind of like his film history. He started in 2009 with a short, and he did a number of shorts, like 3 shorts and then 2 or 3 features. He went to film school in Switzerland.
Where's he from though originally?
I think he's originally from I want to say Iraq, and his family, left the unrest in Iraq to go, have a better life in Switzerland, and he scored last year a 3-picture deal, and I forget the names of the different pictures and they're in production.
Probably, yeah, and
already.
all with this
And
Saban Films company.
Yeah, I think Saban, and there's another film company that's also
Paradox.
No, it was a different one. I can't remember. I apologize. I should have wrote notes.
Amiri. I'm reading them off the box.
No.
Lionsgate.
So the picture deal didn't have anything to do with this, but I think a big part of it was, it was bringing. Because he's Kurdish, and it was bringing that art form and the what's a good way to say it? Kind of the
culture,
the film business opportunities, for production and that kind of stuff for the Kurds. And so this whole thing is going to be, they're going to build a big production studio, and so. They're
in
kind of
Iraq?
I don't know if it's in Iraq exactly where they're building it. They didn't give any details in that, but it was. I thought it was cool that they were helping out. Like, hey, let's bring this. I mean, because this guy's pretty good, and he's had some great stuff so far. So it's pretty promising to see what he might be doing coming forward.
Well, you're throwing out some words. Great. Yeah, I mean, if anything, he's a straightforward, solid director. I would say there's nothing. To me, there's no uniqueness in this movie. There's no visual style.
Yeah,
there's
we're
no
talking about
voice.
this particular film.
Yeah.
And I don't think that this particular film defines who he is. So, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, even though this film, like you said, is predictable, it's straightforward. It's not, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Really, though, it's fine. Like, if you grew up, like, dirt track racing or something.
Or if you have an appreciation for racing in general, I think you'd enjoy it.
You'd be okay with it. Like you wouldn't hate yourself for watching it. I watched this last night, pretty late, and I was like, "Oh man, I gotta sit through this." But then I was like, "Oh, John Travolta with a wig, and it doesn't look terrible most of the time."
Yeah,
and it was actually like I was kind of happy to just see John Travolta just acting again.
Yeah,
instead of trying to do some weird like. What's the Fanatic that came out last year?
Well, and it's funny that one of the things that were on Osmosis this last week was Hairspray, and he did, he played the woman
mom
in Hairspray, which I just didn't. I was like, no,
I don't know.
It didn't fit. Yeah,
have you ever seen the Broadway?
I have not.
I haven't either. Comment below if you have. Is the mom in the Broadway version also played by a man?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because if that's the carryover, then I can understand it.
Sure, yeah.
If that's kind of like that's the gag, that's the joke.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is.
I don't know.
But anyways, that's been 20 years now since that movie came out.
Right, and it just takes me out of it. Like, it took me out of it.
Because you're just looking at John Travolta in a dress,
right,
basically.
Yeah. I'm like, I was just having a hard time with that.
Wait, you mean in Hairspray? That's the only thing that took you out of it?
Well, no, but that's,
Yeah. Hairspray sucks at me. Moving on.
But yeah, the 13-year-old had a Hairspray on when I walked in after work, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is what I'm watching while I'm making my sandwich.
You make a lot of sandwiches.
I do. You
got to take a picture of a sandwich sometime. We got to see what that looks like.
It's usually, PB&J, nothing special.
I have an interesting tidbit of trivia for this movie that I got off of IMDb. So take it with a grain of salt, but it's probably true. There's a scene, I don't know if you remember, it's pretty early on right in the beginning where Cam, the son, is kind of having a discussion / argument with his wife outside. Mm-hmm. And
and the baby wakes up?
Yes. It's a real simple, just 2-shot type of thing where it's just reverse, reverse, reverse.
He said he'll give me a job at his service center.
I can't believe you trust this guy.
And over the shoulder, well, when they were filming Cam's lines, the winds and stuff were all calm, but then the reverse, you'll notice like her hair is going crazy, and there's just wind everywhere. I guess they were under a tornado warning.
Oh wow!
During that,
wow,
and they didn't have enough time to like wait for it to stop and then go. Like they had just been through a tornado warning, I guess. Like an hour earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And so the winds were all still there and everything, but they didn't have time to delay it anymore, so they had to film it. So the one thing that stuck out to me immediately was when they're showing Cam's shot, she's in the left of frame, her hair is perfectly still, and then when they show the reverse and she's talking, her hair is just like in her face and it's everywhere and it's out to here. And I was like, that was 2 different shoots, like like 2 different moments completely. And I found out that was because of the storm. So there's more to it, though. And this is actually kind of interesting. So this is verbatim what the trivia comment in IMDb is. So when they were shooting the scene where Cam and Cindy are arguing outside their trailer and the wind was blowing her hair around, there had been a tornado warning earlier, and the staff all had to huddle in a basement for an hour and lost a bunch of shooting time. Later, when they were finally able to finish that scene, the director said something to the DP, who spoke mostly Spanish, and the director, being Kurdish, doesn't speak Spanish, more than likely.
Right, probably Swiss and whatever,
The DP didn't really respond, this person says, and the director got angry with him. And they got into a full-on shoving match, so much so that someone had to separate them and calm the director down so that they could finish the scene.
Wow.
Well, there's like 5 things there that you just shouldn't do.
Right.
First thing, having an argument with your above the line guy in front of everyone.
Right. Yeah.
Never do that.
Not a good idea.
Take that behind the door.
Right.
The other thing is, I mean, physical violence is stupid. Like, I understand there's a lot of stress, but come on, man.
Yeah,
like, you're not helming like a blockbuster movie here. Like, just chill out, figure it out, and be like, okay, you know what? That's fine. Can we get a fan in here and, blow a bunch of wind for Cam's scenes? That way they look the same. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why not? Just somebody on that set had to have spoke Spanish. They're not going to just hire a Spanish DP and then have a huge language barrier.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds more like an ego barrier than it was a language barrier. It definitely
does. Yeah. It definitely sounds like there's something there where maybe a little auteurness was coming out and like, this is my American movie. And we're speculating, of course, but that's definitely what that sounds like.
Right.
But just don't do that. Like, don't. Physical violence is stupid in general. Like, just figure it out, man. Just calm down and figure it out. It's just a movie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. The other thing, I mean, we kind of briefly talked about it, but there's quite a bit of overacting in some senses. I think, and again, I don't know if that's the actor or the director feeling like that scene needs that. I thought Cam's character especially was pretty flat, and then all of a sudden you had these huge kind of like blow ups and just didn't fit well.
I want to be a champion, but that's something I'll never be racing for my dad.
Have you talked to him about this? Look, it's bad enough riding for someone else, but riding for Bob Linsky? That won't fly with your dad. He'll fire you, son or no son.
Big friggin' deal.
Cam, it is a big deal.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, like, he's kind of the main character. I mean, John Travolta and his son are the main characters, but I thought the Cam character was written the worst out of all of them. I thought the wife Cindy, even Shania Twain's character, they all had a lot more interesting kind of dynamics to them that I was kind of like, explore that more.
Yeah.
And then all Sam had was this kind of like macho, I gotta fend for my family vibe, and that's all he had to him. Like, there wasn't an arc. at least there wasn't much of one. If there was an arc, it was
Right.
like a speed bump.
Right.
Because he basically just goes from, you know, I want money to, okay, family's important. You know, I got to be with my dad type of a thing.
Sure, yeah.
And I thought he was definitely the least fleshed out of all of them. And, you know, I think the Cindy character does a really good job, especially in that argument outside the trailer, tornado or not, where that acting and that whole, you actually kind of believe, you know, that she's afraid of him crashing and possibly dying.
Yeah,
and,
she
you
did
know,
a
she's
great
got
job.
Kid and everything.
Yeah. Even, you know, checking Sam in and telling him like it was. And I mean, yeah, she was great.
There's an opening scene, the opening scene, where it's a race and it's Cam and Michael Madsen racing, and Cam loses, but it's all basically just sound effects, music, and the announcers, like the stadium announcers.
The leaders come off turn 2 with only 3 laps to go. Bob Linsky in the white number 33 car has a razor-thin lead on Cam Monroe in the midnight blue number 2.
These two have been scrapping it out all season long here in super late model racing.
They sure have, Jimmy. Cam Monroe drives for his dad and crew chief, local racing legend Sam the Man Monroe, who might be the best dirt track racer I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh. This is where I was like, oh no, what am I getting myself into? Because I think it's like 4 minutes of just like straight up exposition.
Yeah.
Told via these announcers.
Yeah.
And I wrote this down. I thought this movie would have done great with another edit pass.
I think so too.
It needed one more go through.
Yeah.
That whole segment up top could have been shortened, and it would have been so much more effective.
Yeah.
If it was just sound effects.
Yeah.
And visuals, and that was it.
Yeah, 100%.
I didn't need these announcers telling me that there's this big rivalry between the two, because you find that out 20 seconds later.
And you can show that
Right.
cutting back from one driver to the other and showing them, you know, trading paint. So
Yes, right.
So
title of the movie.
There was another race scene later where they did something similar, and then they had the laps, and then they did the lap thing, lap. I didn't need all of that.
Right.
You didn't need to show the passing of time in those lap scenarios.
Yeah.
I agree on that. You know, that could have been edited a lot more concisely. You didn't need the you knew that was that was kind of you told too much instead of just showing
right.
So
segments could
an
have been
edit
a lot shorter too. Yeah.
And here, so I'm glad you brought up the edit, because I do feel like another pass in the edit would have, you know, or maybe a second set of eyes on the edit, you know, before the release of what we got. The final race, the final victory, there's this, you know, you feel that tension, the emotion, the build up.
Oh my
and then
gosh.
it cuts to the song.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Like,
I wrote this down too.
It totally takes me out of the moment.
Yeah.
Like the song, I'm like,
sitting there.
This song is so misplaced.
Oh, it's weird
And-
poppy country song.
and
yeah.
and it might, and lyrically it might make sense, but that was the wrong spot to cut that in.
Yeah.
Like I want give him the trophy.
Right.
Everybody's yelling and because the emotional buildup was da, 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 you're going to get the payoff, and then boom, it cuts you off.
it
It gives
just-
you the song. There's no other.
Just pop the balloon.
There was no other.
Yeah.
Sound underscore
Nothing.
or ambient noise that was in the moment.
Yeah, it
was
turns into a music video.
Straight song, and I'm like,
Cam Monroe's storming after Bob Linsky.
Monroe cuts inside, has the line. He has the line. He has the line. He has the line.
Literally, that's what I did. I was like,
yeah, you had the opposite reaction to me, where I was sitting there watching it, and my wife had already gone to bed, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden it happens, and I go, "What the hell?"
yeah,
and then I'm just like,
what? Just
fumbling
happened?
around with the remote,
Right,
seeing
yeah.
if the audio channel got changed
Yeah,
somehow.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
this is just background audio on
Yeah.
accident. No, that's how really bad.
Yeah,
There has got to be a reason for that.
I mean, I don't know, dude. That's the crescendo of the film. That's the climax of not just that scene.
Do you think
but
that band paid for that?
I don't know. I mean,
Because it feels so out of place. There's not another scene in the movie like that where it just cuts to music and then it's kind of a music montage or something.
No,
it's this end race montage.
Yeah, I mean, and there's plenty of music in the film,
right?
There's a Shania thing in there, and so, but it's like an underscore. And there's other. This totally doesn't flow. This totally takes you out of that moment. Yeah. Totally throws cold water on the crescendo of that, and
I think ultimately it suffers from it.
Yeah,
it kind of ruins the whole.
And
up until then, I was like, "This
what
is
you're
fine."
left with,
right? It ends on that, cuts to credits.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is bad.
It's not good.
That was bad. Because then it comes out of that and the trophy.
Oh,
scene.
I guess there's a little bit of
there's a trophy scene, and then it goes to the credits. But you're left with that feeling that you're like, ugh.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk about one thing that I'm not sure, and maybe I'm just alone in this. Stumpy, who is John Travolta's best friend in this.
Yeah.
And he's called Stumpy, I think, for the first time kind of in the middle of the movie, even though you've seen him a couple times then. I don't think they refer to him as that name.
Yeah, you don't realize that his leg's missing until about the middle of the movie.
And that was a big miss for me, I thought. That again, we're going back to the edit here. That scene where he's having that moment where it kind of, it really humanizes John Travolta's character, gives John Travolta this kind of like heroic backstory moment, at least, should have definitely been moved way earlier.
I decided to go down the bank around 50 feet and try my luck. So I cast my line in and waited for a few minutes. Nothing. So I started to reel her in, and I got my line caught on snagged on a weeds or some old tree trunk or something, and so I waited out, tried to get her unhooked, and that's when I found out why the fish weren't biting.
Why?
Gator. 12 foot, a hungry alligator.
It's more like 8 foot.
Okay.
Hey, if it's a gator chewing off your leg, you can call it 8 foot, all right? But it's my leg and it's my story, and that gator was 12 foot.
All right.
Hey.
I apologize. I made a mistake. It was 12 foot.
Well, yeah, and even foreshadow that with them two fishing. Like have some random opening shot, right, with them fishing, and you get a glimpse that the guy's leg's gone or whatever. And
you go through this whole backstory, and it wasn't until he's telling the story that I'm like, oh, his leg is gone. Right. And you've seen him like 4 or 5 times since then.
Yeah.
And to me, it was kind of like, how come that wasn't kind of established? It almost felt like a reshoot thing that they added that backstory later. Like that's, I'm sure they didn't, but that's what it felt like, because it just, there was no lead into it. There was no hint. There's no shot of them, like a wide shot of John Travolta and him walking, and you see like his prosthetic leg.
No,
there's none of that up until
that didn't. That didn't bother me that much. I would have liked to have had, like I said, that scene of them fishing, so that it ties that when he's telling that story in, or when he's
not so much that it bothered me as much as it could have been done with more detail.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I know I'm right.
That's why it's going to be the Z podcast with an occasional E added at the end.
Every once in a while, I'll let Eric talk. But
there's another element that hit me too, was when.
Is it the random flashbacks to his wife?
No, it wasn't the random flash.
Yeah.
It was which that wasn't really needed either.
No.
I mean,
or it could have been done differently too. I'll speak about that in a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I think the argument over the car and then kind of the why and just telling this, him sharing could have been totally fine.
Yeah.
Didn't need to set that up as much as it was.
Right.
The other thing that kind of I wanted to see was when the sun spun out, he crashes into him, that whole scene, and then you see Stumpy running across the track, or kind of gimping across the track,
hobbling,
up to the guy that spun him out. He's right next to the car.
And he's the same guy?
It's the same guy.
Yeah.
And he's like right next to his car, like, and I
he's
wanted
sitting in it
I
still,
wanted him
right?
to reach in and grab him because he saw what happened.
Yeah.
Or something.
Or
just
in any other movie that would have happened.
Like he reaches in and grabs his suit or something,
or just pulls him out of the car, at least,
or grabs his helmet and then it cuts to black. Like, you don't need to see any more of it.
Yeah,
just him.
There's zero acknowledgement.
Like, you know that he knows and he's coming after him.
Yeah, there's no repercussions to that guy for doing that.
Yeah.
No one says, "Hey man, why'd you do that?" Or no one calls him out on it. That character's done.
Yeah.
After that is done, he's done. I want to go back to there's these flashback scenes very early on in the movie, and they're not even really scenes. They're just like quick, like maybe 10 frame shots. The very beginning, and John Travolta, he has a wrecking company. I guess that's kind of what so his shop, he has a tower.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to this crash, and he's getting ready to tow the car, and he's kind of sitting, it's raining, and he's sitting in the tow truck, and then we have these bam, 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 like quick flashback hits that are kind of like pretty violent.
Yeah, kind of jolting.
In an editor's way, not like in a physical way. And it's like, wow, that doesn't, for one, I don't know what I just saw because I have no connection to this character yet.
Right. And
two, I thought that if you're going to do that, you could do it different. Like, you could have done it in more of like a Terrence Malick kind of way, or a more like a like it's raining, right? And it was raining when the car crash happened where his wife died. If you had kind of this really shallow depth of field shot of like the raindrops falling down the windshield, and then you match cut that with raindrops falling down the windshield on her, like in the car that they crashed in. Yeah. And then that would kind of trigger, because there's not really a trigger visually, and besides the rain, that it's kind of like, why am I here now? And then all of a sudden you're here, and then you're gone, you're out of it, and he's putting the car on the tow truck.
Right. I
think there could have been a moment that you could have slowed down there and let that breathe, because I'm sure they shot a bunch of footage for those.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to set all those up and then not shoot a bunch of footage. Slow down. And like, this movie's only an hour and 27 minutes.
Yeah.
You could have afforded another 4 minutes of something, or cut that other time somewhere else, which is the opening scene could have been cut in half. And just let that moment breathe. Let that John Travolta memory, because then you can kind of grasp and you kind of feel, and you're like,
yeah, and you're drawn into the character faster.
And if you're able to kind of sit with them having fun in the car, and then all of a sudden, you build up that connection with them, and then she dies. It's like, now it's more impactful because you've had a few moments with her, as opposed to just these 10 frames, like just rapid fire.
Right.
And there's no visual edit connection. I wanted there to be something that kind of segues, like a match cut of something to something. And
I like the idea with the
it's super simple. Yes.
Rain.
Yep.
Hitting the windshield.
You do a dolly shot into, John Travolta sitting at the tow truck waiting, and then just real slow, and then you have the next shot is just, it's a real macro shot of just water dripping onto the windshield or the side window, and then you match cut that to the same shot, but 10 years earlier, 15 years earlier, whatever it was, of the car wreck night.
Yeah.
And I think that would have sold it. Things need a thread.
Yeah,
when you're editing and storytelling.
It's just those little details that really help, support the story, that help cope with the cohesion, and that type of thing.
And I think if you get into a certain level of directing, like you get those moments thought out a little bit better. So like if you got like a Denis Villeneuve movie or something like, Prisoners, there's a lot of that kind of thread connecting in cuts, and David Fincher and a lot just guys that are at the top of their game.
Yeah.
They're thinking those things out,
Right.
And
how much of that, here's a question for you. How much of that is really the director's vision? How much of that is the editor going, hey, this is
sure.
And how much of that is more landing on the writer?
So I think it's probably, it's got to be a combination of all of them, right? Although I would say that it probably should land more on the director, and then maybe the editor. A really great example of the editor coming up with a solution, I'll give you two. So Star Wars 1977 was a mess. And George Lucas's wife at the time came in and totally made that movie what it is, along with another editor. Their names escape me, I'm sorry. That movie would not be the movie that we know and love today if the editor didn't come in and find things that worked, find cuts, find matches. Because so much of that movie is the interesting, the wipe cuts.
Right.
And oftentimes they're wiping to another action that's in a similar direction or something, and that's finding those moments.
Right.
The editor definitely did that. Those were not planned.
Yeah.
They were planned there on out, I'm sure, because now they have that voice
they
and that
realize
style.
Right. How well it works, and let's keep that
another point to bring up is, you're sitting at the end of Endgame, and the editor from that says, well, he should say, I am Iron Man.
Well, yeah, and that was a reshoot.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was a reshoot because
thankfully
the editor threw
while
that idea out there.
While they were still in that space.
So I think that, now I don't know, movies like this probably don't have much of a budget for reshoots. But you could have probably found some stock footage shot on the same format that you could have color graded to look like it was shot by you guys, of a windshield with rain on it, and then just tied those in together somehow.
Yeah.
And I think that at that point should have been on the editor. But if you have a writer with a voice, like if you have a writer that is he's known for getting every single detail in. Aaron Sorkin is one of those type of writers. If you don't know who he is, he has a masterclass on Masterclass. It's incredible. He's one of the best writers for film and TV that I know of. He did The West Wing, Social Network, just a ton of things. I think he's amazing. He is the type of writer, though, that would definitely be like, the water droplets on the windshield reminded John Travolta's character of the water droplets on that day. And then that's where the director and the cinematographer would go through shot lists and create that shot list for those moments. And but if you don't have a writer like that, which oftentimes you don't, oftentimes studios are buying scripts and then the director is getting attached to them and doing their vision of that.
Right, and there's an adaptation of some sort.
Totally the director. Yeah. And I think you have certain directors that are definitely going to be like, we need to get this, all these insert shots. I don't know exactly which one I want to use, but I know we need them.
Right.
And I think that's fine. I mean, I think it's perfectly acceptable to say, I don't know which ones I want, because that's what good editors are for.
Yeah.
The editor will find that shot, that look, that moment that works best in the edit. And I think this movie may have suffered from a little bit of all three. I think definitely the edit is probably the most troubling part of this movie.
Yeah.
Again, it could have used another pass, maybe even two. But yeah, I think it starts from the writer. But if you don't have a writer that's not their type, or that writer wants to leave it up to the interpretation
Right.
of the director,
Yeah,
which
it
happens
gives,
all the time.
gives them creative
Yeah.
space for sure.
Then,
that's cool.
But I don't think it should be going past, like, it should never be ending it, like, starting at the editor.
Right.
Like, if the director didn't get it, then that's
Right, because you got to capture the footage in the first place.
Yeah, right. So I think yeah, it should start at the writer, but it shouldn't no less start at the director.
Yeah. You know, I think what I appreciate of, you know, just us talking and breaking these down is there's an educational part of it too that I really appreciate, and, you know, new things that I learn, you know, from your experience and from stuff that we break down, and then stuff that I'm reminded of, and, you know, the whole time passing thing. You know, we talked about the whole time passing thing in 1917, and, you know, because it had this more in real time feel to it because of the way it was shot.
Yeah.
You know, in this, you know, there's elements of time passing, i.e. in those races, that didn't need to be illustrated or edited the way that they were.
Yeah, you didn't need to see the real time of
for
everything.
it to work.
Yeah.
And I think in some cases, like for me, you know, like I mentioned, it took me out of, like, if I'm now more concerned about thinking about this edit and this time passing in, like, kind of on the nose with the lap thing going on. I'm like, I'm out. Now I'm not engaged. You've removed that level of engagement. And I think that's, you know, what good writers, directors, editors, when you have a solid film, those moments, you're hyper aware of things that are going to take people out of it.
Yeah.
And work so that you don't do that.
I think there was an opportunity here to have a movie that was more about the racers and not the racing.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of went middle of the road on both.
Yeah.
And I think if it would have maybe put the racing as the back seat and treated itself as more of a drama as opposed to this kind of, you know, we want to get the, you know, the meathead, normal kind of viewer audience, then, and went for a little bit more of like a not sophisticated, but, you know, like just a little more on the drama side, on the acting side, as opposed to the action side.
Yeah.
It felt like they thought, well, you know,
it was
this
safe.
is a racing movie. It needs racing. But
it was safe.
Yes.
There was a lot of, I think, safe choices that were made. And, you know, you started out with, it was okay. And, you know, and we talked about it being predictable. And it was, you know, it's pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. So, as you mentioned, but from pulling this from the bin, I was actually pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
It was better than I anticipated it.
This could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think, you know, a couple of, like, the main notes that I have. Overall, nice production quality.
Yep.
I thought locations were great.
Yep.
The cinematography was pretty good.
Yeah.
It wasn't, in no way was it like groundbreaking or unique, or like there's not a whole lot of interesting dynamic angles and compositions.
Mm-hmm.
But the lighting and the color grade of it was solid, and it, you know, and I enjoyed looking at it. And nothing took me out of it.
Right.
It felt like a film.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I appreciated that. And it was good to see John Travolta with some normal hair.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it was cool.
Not looking like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Well,
so here's the thing.
Yeah.
Would you recommend somebody to watch this?
If you like straightforward racing movies, or if you just like dirt track racing, because it doesn't get a whole lot of love.
Yeah.
If you like John Travolta, even though he's a whack job.
Wow. I mean, is he though?
He's a Scientologist, so yeah.
I mean,
moving right along.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I would. I mean, I wouldn't not.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good example of, you know, what would you edit? Like watching this for the edit.
But for the general audience that's perusing through the bin
Yeah.
for $5,
I would say,
is it worth the $5
if you grab it,
and the 2 hours?
if you blindly grab it from the bin and you're like, should I give this a shot? Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah.
There's much worse things in the bin.
Right.
And
you got some great acting from John. You got your Shania Twain eye candy.
a little bit of, what are you talking Shania Twain eye candy? What are you talking about?
I'm old, so
I guess so. By the way, Shania Twain is completely 100% dressed the entire time in this movie.
Yeah.
In pants that fit and a shirt that definitely fits. Like, don't. There's no eye candy.
Well, I mean, you know, they threw her in there, I'm sure, for...
She was fine.
Yeah.
She didn't blow me away, but she also didn't take me out of it.
Right.
So I guess that's good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It was kind of nice to see, like, John Travolta playing or like John Travolta's character dating another character of the same age.
Yeah.
And then didn't try to make it like him dating a 23-year-old.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't weird.
Yeah.
It felt like,
it felt pretty Southern.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did.
For the most part, I think it's a pretty accurate, straightforward movie. Accurate in like the sense of the world, maybe. I'm sure there is a lot of that. Dealership owners are also the racers in that small world of racing, dirt track racing. But yeah, general audience, if you want to watch it, it's not a bad hour and a half. Except for that last 2 minutes.
Right. Yeah. Sorry about that song in the end.
Oh, it's so bad. But yeah, I guess check it out.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah. So there you have it. There's I don't know, would you call it I don't know if it's a bin gem. I don't know if I'd call it a gem,
it's
but
a ruby.
I mean,
it's a bin ruby.
Fair enough.
Bin ruby.
But it wasn't. But it wasn't a rotten tomato. No pun intended.
We can't use that trademark. No, I think we have.
It wasn't a rotten apple.
We have let's keep with the rocks, the minerals here. So, it's either a rock, a ruby, or a gem.
Wasn't a ruby a gem though?
I don't know. What's the middle of the
like jade maybe?
Isn't jade more expensive than rubies?
No, rubies.
No? Okay,
rubies way more expensive.
Fine, then we have rocks, jades, and rubies. There we go. This was a jade. This was a jade of a film.
Yeah, you're not jaded.
Yeah, I'm not giving it a gem though. That's for sure. Yeah, I guess that about does it though.
Yeah, that's it from the bin.
Eric, you want to close this out?
Sure. Hey, thank you so much for listening, tuning in, and watching this episode with that guy, Zach Abbott, and that guy, that's me, Eric. Thanks for spending. Get out of here. Thanks for spending time checking out From the Bin. Sponsored by the Easy Podcast.
We own it. It's us.
That's right.
We're not sponsoring it.
We're sponsoring
We're not
From the
paying
Bin
for our own segment.
This is true. Produced by the Easy Podcast Show.
Yeah, you can find us online. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Zach Abbott's. He's on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube
and
at Eric Thurston.
Yep.
You can find the Easy Podcast on Instagram and Twitter at the Easy Podcast. And if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, email us at theeasypodcastshow@gmail.com. That does it. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Stumpy, you are out of your mind.